So, in this next episode, I'm going to talk about duality, where it's really had a big impact on my past and decision making and the choices and opportunities I had. And I remember back in school, I think it was in year one, and I remember a teacher asking a question, and I raised my hand all excited because I thought I had the right answer. And I gave my answer, and the teacher said, no, I was wrong. And in that moment, I just felt really stupid, like I'd done the wrong thing. And I remember feeling embarrassed and ashamed about it. And that decision followed me through my whole life. And I was like that all throughout school. I was always too afraid to put my hand up to answer any questions if the teacher asked for a volunteer to answer a question. And it brings me to my adult life, working as a nurse in emergency. And I remember a guy talking to a colleague, and I was just overhearing the conversation. He was talking about how by making mistakes that we actually learn. And that really stuck with me. And it actually gave me the courage to really let go of the fear of making mistakes. Because in that moment, I realized it wasn't just me, that we all make mistakes and that's how we learn. And it was as if he gave me the permission to be able to admit that I wasn't perfect, that I could make mistakes. Because the whole reason for me being too fearful to raise my hand again as a kid in school was that I had this impression that I needed to be perfect, that I was somehow a failure for making a mistake. And listening to my colleague talk about how he was going to give a presentation and that we learn by making mistakes, it just gave me permission all of a sudden to be able to admit that I'm not perfect and I can make mistakes. And that's just the crazy thing about duality. In that moment as a child, I could have gone one of two ways. The way I went was that I was a failure, I wasn't good enough, there was something lacking in me, rather than going, well, okay, I made a mistake and that's fine and I can learn from it. Now, as a child, of course, I couldn't have made that distinction. But that whole operating system of being afraid, fearful, had been running my whole life to the point where I was missing out on opportunity and really making myself small. And, brings me to this idea of like in life, there everything has its duality. There's up and down, left and right, good and bad, dark and light. And it also comes to situations and circumstances and decisions that we make that we can go one way or the other. And I'll even bring it to something else that was really powerful for me once I realized it. Quite a few years ago, I was debating whether or not I should ask a girl out. And I was all fearful and didn't want to expose myself. And then I thought, well, how would the other person perceive it though? Even if they said no, they may feel flattered or it might make them feel good regardless of the outcome. So instead of focusing on myself and what I was going to get out of it and my own failure, I thought that this might actually be a positive for that person. Even if they said no, it didn't actually matter. It was just flattering because I would think of myself if I was asked out by someone or that someone had even asked me out, would make me feel rather positive. And so I was able to make that decision to go up and ask that girl out. And I can't recall what happened, but it wasn't as bad as I'd expected. It was a positive experience. We all do this in some way, that we are fearful of doing something without thinking of the other side. Quite often we can get stuck into how it makes us feel and feel small rather than taking a step back, taking a breath and thinking about, okay, what's the other side of it? And so, like for me with doing this channel, one side of it is I have all these reasons why I have fear and, the confidence to do it and to not look silly. But the other side of it is that, well, I know that I'm just a beginner at it and that's all okay. And I'm going to keep improving as I move along. That is the other side of this. That is the duality. And everything has duality. We just get stuck in the moment instead of looking at the other side, that there is more than one angle to look at a situation or circumstance or a challenge. This is one of the things that has been profoundly positive for me. It's to be able to look at a situation and to look at it differently, to look at it from a different angle. I've also learned that I can look back at my life and instead of seeing it as a series of failures or goals I wasn't able to achieve, I can instead look at it as things that I've learned along the way. And I think that you'll find the same with your own life if you look at it in the right context, like the glass half full. The glass is either half full or half empty. And if it's half full, that's the positive angle to take on it. The glass half empty is the negative way to look at it. And it's completely reframed everything for me. I no longer look at the struggle of my life, of my upbringing. It doesn't forgive those things that happened to me. I now have a lived experience of all of this negativity. It has turned me into who I am, where I have these incredible life experiences and life knowledge, not by learning it from a book. It's not an intellectual exercise for me. I have lived these things deeply and I've had to dig myself out of a hole to come to the point that I am. I would encourage you to also do the same. That perhaps what you're going through isn't necessarily a bad thing. It may not feel good and you may not have chosen to do it, but what's on the other side of it? I think it's building character and strength and resilience. Some of those negative things have been truly shocking, but I've learned to trust the process. And I now look back at all of these negative moments in my life as also particularly empowering opportunities for massive growth.